Let us begin with a scene that has become the defining image of our age. A young professional, let us call her Maya, sitting at her desk at 2:37 a.m., surrounded by empty coffee cups, her eyes bloodshot. Her back aching, her mind foggy. But she cannot stop. She cannot rest. She cannot sleep because she is grinding. She is hustling. She is doing what she has been told she must do to succeed. And she is proud of her exhaustion. She wears it like a badge of honor. She posts about it on social media. She compares her sleep-deprived hours with her peers, and she feels a sense of superiority, a sense of righteousness, a sense that she is doing what it takes while others are sleeping, while others are resting, while others are taking the easy path. But Maya is not aware that she is walking into a trap that is set by the culture of the grind, a trap that promises success but delivers burnout, a trap that tells you that you must sacrifice everything for your goals, that you must push through the pain, that you must ignore the signals of your body and your mind, and the trap is so seductive, so pervasive, so deeply embedded in the modern psyche that most people do not even see it. They do not realize that the grind is not a path to success. It is a path to collapse. It is a path to exhaustion. It is a path to a life that is not a life but is slow. Grinding death of the spirit, in Maya is not alone. She is one of millions, one of the generation that has been told that they can have it all, that they must do it all, that they must be it all, and they are breaking under the weight of that expectation. They are burning out at an alarming rate. They are experiencing anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, and a sense of emptiness that no achievement can fill. And the tragedy is that they are not failing. They are succeeding. They are achieving. They are climbing the ladder. But the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. And they are reaching the top only to find that there is nothing there, only to find that they have sacrificed their health, their relationships, their joy, their very humanity for a prize that is hollow. And this is the hidden truth of the grind. It is a system that exploits your ambition, that weaponizes your drive, that turns your passion into a prison. And the only way out is not to stop grinding, but to grind differently, to grind with intention, to grind with balance, to grind with the understanding that the most productive thing you can do is sometimes to stop, to rest, to recover, to replenish, because the grind is real. But the burnout is also real, and the burnout is the enemy of the grind. And the person who does not burn out is the person who ultimately wins. Now let us dissect the neurobiology of burnout, because burnout is not a feeling, it is a physiological state, a state of chronic stress that overwhelms the body's ability to recover, and Maya, who has been pushing herself for years, has been operating in a state of sympathetic nervous system overdrive, a state where the body is constantly in fight or flight mode, where cortisol is constantly elevated, where adrenaline is constantly pumping, and this state is not sustainable. It is not designed to be sustainable. It is designed for short bursts of intense activity, followed by periods of rest and recovery. But Maya has not been resting. She has not been recovering. She has been pushing, and her body is now in a state of allostatic load, a state where the cumulative wear and tear on her systems is beginning to show, and the symptoms are not just psychological, they are physical, they are immunological, they are neurological. Her sleep is disrupted, her immune system is compromised, her cognitive function is impaired, her creativity is diminished, her ability to concentrate is eroded, and she is not aware that these symptoms are not just stress. They are the warning signs of a system that is about to collapse. They are the red lights on the dashboard of her life, and she is ignoring them. She is pressing on, because she has been conditioned to believe that pushing through the pain is a virtue, that ignoring the warning signs is a strength, that the only way to succeed is to sacrifice everything. And this belief is a lie, a dangerous and destructive lie, because the body is not a machine that can run indefinitely without maintenance. It is a biological system that requires rest, requires recovery, requires restoration. And the person who does not honor these requirements is the person who will eventually break, honest, who will eventually be forced to stop, not by choice but by the failure of their own biology. and Maya is heading toward that failure. She is on a collision course with burnout, and she does not even know it. Let us introduce a character you have not met before, a man we will call David, who is 37 years old, a software engineer in San Francisco, who has been working at a startup for the past 5 years, who has been working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, who has been sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, who has been surviving on coffee and adrenaline, and who has been telling himself that this is temporary, that this is the price of success, that once the company goes public, he will be able to rest, he will be able to relax, he will be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor. But the company has not gone public, and David is not resting. He is not relaxing. He is not enjoying anything. He is exhausted. He is irritable. He is depressed. He has gained weight. He has lost touch with his friends. His marriage is strained. His health is deteriorating. And he feels like he is running on empty, like he is a shell of the person he used to be. And he does not know how to stop, because he has built his entire identity around the grind. He has defined himself by his work, by his productivity, by his output, and if he stops, he feels like he will disappear. He feels like he will be nothing. And this is the trap of the grind. It becomes your identity. It becomes your reason for being. It becomes the thing that gives you meaning. And when you are not grinding, you feel lost. You feel anxious. You feel guilty. You feel like you are failing. And so you keep grinding even when it is destroying you, even when it is killing you. And David is at a crossroads. He is at a point where he cannot continue, but he cannot stop, and he is paralyzed. He is trapped. He is caught in a cycle that is self-perpetuating, self-destructive, and self-defeating. And he needs to find a way out. He needs to find a way to break the cycle, to redefine success, to find a path that is sustainable, that is healthy, that is human. So how does David begin to find his way out? He does not quit his job overnight. He does not burn his bridges. He does not make a reckless decision, but he begins to question. He begins to ask himself the questions that he has been avoiding. What is the purpose of all this work? What am I really trying to achieve? Is this the only way? Is there a different path? And these questions are uncomfortable. They are threatening. They challenge the foundation of his identity. But they are necessary. They are the beginning of the transformation. And he also begins to experiment. He starts to take small breaks. He starts to leave the office at a reasonable hour. He starts to take a lunch break. He starts to sleep more. And he notices that his productivity does not decline, that his creativity actually increases, that his mood improves, that he is more present, more engaged, more effective. And this is the revelation. The grind is not the path to peak performance. It is the path to diminished performance, because the brain needs rest. The brain needs rest. The brain needs recovery. The brain needs downtime to consolidate learning, to make new connections, to generate new ideas. And the person who is constantly working is the person who is constantly depriving their brain of the resources it needs to function optimally. And David begins to understand that the most important habit is not the habit of working longer. It is the habit of working smarter, the habit of finding the rhythm that allows him to be productive without being destructive, And he begins to build a new relationship with work, a relationship that is not based on sacrifice, but on sustainability, not on depletion, but on renewal. Now let us examine the psychology of the burnout cycle, because burnout is not just about working too much. It is about a fundamental imbalance between effort and recovery, between stress and rest, between output and input. And Maya, who is trapped in the cycle, has lost the ability to recover. She has lost the ability to rest. She has lost the ability to be still, because her mind is constantly racing, constantly worrying. And she cannot turn it off. She cannot relax. She cannot be present. And this is the insidious nature of burnout. It robs you of the very capacity that you need to recover. It makes it impossible to rest. It makes you feel guilty for resting. It makes you feel anxious when you are not working, and so you continue to work even as your body is screaming for a break, even as your mind is crying out for stillness, and you are caught in a downward spiral, a spiral that leads to exhaustion, to depression, to illness, to collapse, and the only way out is to break the cycle, to interrupt the pattern, to do something different. And this is the hardest thing to do, because it requires you to go against everything you have been taught, to resist the pressure of the culture, to say no to the demands of the grind. And David, who is on his own journey, discovers that the key to breaking the cycle is not to work less, but to recover more, to prioritize rest, to prioritize sleep, to prioritize the activities that replenish him. And he starts to build a recovery practice, a practice of daily rest, of weekly renewal, of seasonal reflection. And this practice is not a luxury, it is a necessity. It is the foundation of his ability to sustain his performance. And he discovers that the person who recovers well is the person who performs well. And the person who does not recover is the person who eventually breaks. Let us also consider the social dimension of burnout. Because burnout is not just an individual problem, it is a cultural problem of a system that glorifies overwork, that rewards sacrifice, that punishes boundaries and money. Who is a high achiever is surrounded by other high achievers, other grinders, other hustlers, and they are all competing, they are all comparing, they are all reinforcing the same unhealthy norms and the pressure to conform, to keep up. To be the one who works the hardest is immense. It is relentless, it is invisible, and Maya is not aware that she is being influenced by this culture. She thinks she is making her own choices, but her choices are being shaped by the expectations of her peers, her managers, her industry, and she is trapped in a system that is designed to extract maximum productivity from her without regard for her well-being. And the system is not evil, it is simply optimizing for output. And output is maximized in the short term by pushing people to their limits, but in the long term, it is destructive, it is unsustainable, it is a recipe for burnout. And the only way to resist the system is to be intentional, to set boundaries, to prioritize your own well-being, to say no to the culture of the grind. And David, who has begun to recover, finds that he is an outlier in his workplace, that he is the one who leaves at a reasonable hour, the one who takes lunch breaks, the one who does not answer emails on weekends. And he feels the judgment of his colleagues. He feels the pressure to conform, but he also feels the benefits of being rested, of being present, of being effective. And he realizes that the judgment is the price of his freedom, and he is willing to pay it because the alternative is burnout. And burnout is a price he is no longer willing to pay. Now let us address the emotional dimension of burnout, because burnout is not just physical exhaustion, it is emotional exhaustion, a depletion of the emotional resources that you need to connect with others, to care about your work, to find meaning in your life. And Maya, who has been grinding for years, has lost the ability to feel. She has become numb, disconnected, detached. She goes through the motions of her life, but she does not feel anything. She does not feel joy. She does not feel sadness. She does not feel excitement. She just feels empty. And this is the most insidious symptom of burnout, the loss of meaning, the loss of purpose, the loss of passion. Because when you are burnt out, you no longer care about the things that used to matter. You no longer find satisfaction in your achievements. You no longer find connection in your relationships. And you are left with a hollow shell, a life that looks successful from the outside but feels empty on the inside. And this is the crisis that David faced. He had achieved all his goals. He had built a successful career. He had earned a good salary. But he felt nothing. He felt like a fraud, a ghost, a machine. And he had to confront the deeper questions. What do I really want? What gives me meaning? What is the purpose of all this effort? And the answers were not easy. They were not comfortable. They required a level of introspection that he had been avoiding. But he began to explore. He began to reconnect with the things that used to bring him joy. He started to paint again. He started to play music. He started to spend time in nature. And these activities were not productive. They did not generate income. They did not advance his career, but they restored him. They replenished his emotional reserves. They reminded him that he was a human being, not a machine. And this is the essence of recovery, the reconnection with the parts of yourself that the grind has silenced. The parts that are not about productivity, but about presence, not about achievement, but about aliveness. let us also consider the physical dimension of burnout, because the body is the vehicle of all experience. And when the body is neglected, when it is not nourished, when it is not moved, when it is not rested, the mind suffers. And Maya, who has been neglecting her body, eating poorly, sleeping poorly, not exercising, is experiencing the consequences. She is tired, she is sick, she is in pain. And she does not realize that her physical symptoms are not separate from her mental state. They are intimately connected. They are part of the same system. And David, who is on his journey of recovery, begins to prioritize his physical health. He starts to exercise, he starts to eat well, he starts to sleep more, and he notices a profound shift, not just in his energy, but in his mood, his focus, his resilience. And he realizes that the body is not a machine to be pushed. It is a temple to be honored. And the person who honors their body is the person who has the capacity to sustain their performance, to maintain their health, to live their life fully. And he begins to see that the grind is not just a mental battle, it is a physical one. And the physical battle is won by rest, by nourishment, by movement, by the simple, essential practices that keep the body healthy and the mind clear. Now let us examine the strategic dimension of the grind, because grinding without strategy is not productivity. It is activity. It is activity. It is busyness. It is the illusion of progress. And Maya, who has been grinding for years, has been working hard, but she has not been working smart. She has been spending her time on low-leverage activities, on tasks that do not move the needle on the urgent rather than the important. And she has not taken the time to step back, to reflect, to prioritize, to focus on what matters most. And David, who is on his journey of recovery, begins to apply a different approach. He starts to ask himself, what is the most important thing I can do today? What is the one activity that will have the greatest impact on my goals? And he focuses on that activity. He does it first. He does it with his full attention, and he does not let the distractions, the interruptions, the demands of others derail him. And he discovers that he can achieve more in 4 hours of focused work than in 12 hours of distracted work. And this is the paradox of the grind. The harder you work, the less effective you become, because you are trading quality for quantity, depth for breadth, impact for activity. And the person who stops grinding, who takes a step back, who focuses on what matters, is the person who actually gets ahead. Not because they are doing more, but because they are doing the right things. Let us also consider the relational dimension of burnout, because the grind does not just affect you, it affects the people around you, your partner, your children, your friends, your colleagues. And Maya, who has been sacrificing everything for her career, has sacrificed her relationships. She is distant from her partner. She is absent from her children's lives. She is disconnected from her friends, and she feels lonely, isolated, cut off. And she does not realize that the very thing she is sacrificing her relationships for is ultimately empty, because success without connection is not success. It is isolation. It is loneliness. It is a life that is not a life. And David, who is on his journey of recovery, begins to rebuild his relationships. He starts to spend time with his family. He starts to reconnect with his friends. He starts to be present. And he discovers that the connection is the thing that gives his life meaning, that the relationships are the source of his joy, that the people he loves are the reason for his success. And he realizes that the grind is not worth the cost, that the price of success is too high if it costs him the people he loves. And he begins to build a life that includes both success and connection, a life that is balanced, a life that is whole, a life that is human. 11. Now let us tell the final chapter of David's story, because he did not just avoid burnout, he transformed his relationship to work, his relationship to himself, his relationship to his life. And he did it not by stopping the grind, but by redefining it, by shifting from the grind of endless effort to the practice of sustainable excellence, the practice of working with intention, of resting with purpose, of connecting with meaning. And he is not the same person who is burning out at 2 a.m. He is a person who is energized, who is focused, who is present, and he has built a life that is not just successful, but fulfilling, not just productive, but meaningful. And he has learned that the most important thing is not to work harder, but to work smarter, not to sacrifice everything, but to prioritize what matters, not to grind until you break, but to find the rhythm that allows you to sustain your passion. And he is grateful for the crisis that forced him to change, because the crisis was the wake-up call that he needed. The crisis was the turning point. The crisis was the beginning of a new way of being, and he is now a mentor to others. He is now the person who tells the young professionals, do not follow my old path, do not burn out, do not sacrifice your health, your relationships, your joy for a hollow prize. Find your rhythm, find your balance, find your way, and the success will follow, not because you pushed harder, but because you were present, you were engaged, you were alive. So here is your final, non-negotiable instruction. If you are grinding, if you are burning out, if you are sacrificing your health, your relationships, your joy, you must stop. You must pause. You must ask yourself the hard questions. And you must start to make changes. Not big changes, not dramatic changes, but small changes, daily changes. The change of taking a lunch break, the change of sleeping an extra hour, the change of saying no to a demand, the change of prioritizing your well-being. And you must do this not because you are weak, but because you are wise, because you understand that sustainability is the foundation of success, that rest is the prerequisite for performance. That connection is the source of meaning, and you must find your rhythm. You must find your balance. You must find your way, and you must trust that the path of sustainable excellence is the path of true success. The path of a life that is not just productive, but fulfilling. Not just busy, but meaningful. Not just grinding, but aligned. And tonight you will take one step. You will turn off your phone an hour before bed. You will take a walk without your devices. You will spend time with someone you love, and you will rest, you will recover, you will replenish, because the grind is real. But the burnout is not the price you have to pay. The burnout is the choice you make when you ignore the signals, and you are choosing differently. You are choosing to thrive, not just to survive. You are choosing to live, not just to work, and that choice is the beginning of your new life.